Good afternoon. My name is Toni Kelly, and I am the chair for the Washington State We the People Party. Michael is gone today. He is taken off some time so that he can deal with some things. So I am going to go at this by myself today. And what I wanted to talk about today is our responsibility as citizens. Because I think that that's something that we kind of forget about is, that we do have a responsibility to be active. And so, we talk a lot in this country about our rights as citizens and what our rights should be. And obviously that matters and they are essential, but we rarely talk about what is our responsibility. And, somewhere along the way, we became complacent in our roles as citizens. We allowed ourselves to be convinced that our responsibility ends once we've casted our ballot. We vote, we've picked our side, and then we step back and let them do their thing and pray. But, that was never the intent of self-government. Self-government doesn't mean that we elect people and then we walk away. It means that people remain actively, or I guess it should mean that people remain actively involved. It means that authority flows from the citizens, not the other way around. Government is supposed to be acting at the consent of the governed, not in place of them. So when we talk about responsibility, especially at the state level, we're talking about something very specific. The state government is where citizens have the most direct power and therefore the most direct responsibility. This is where laws are written, that the budgets are passed, agencies are created, policies are enforced that actually affect our daily lives. Self-government at the state level only works if the citizens stay engaged after the elections. Our responsibility as citizens doesn't end when we vote. At the state level, our responsibility is to stay informed, to participate. That might mean going to meetings, getting to know who is in office in your area and what's actually happening, to ask the questions. We should be demanding transparency and to hold our elected officials accountable, because state government is where most of the decisions actually affect our lives. And that's, the state is where the laws that are made that actually affect us. So, let's put that into perspective. We tend to pay more attention to the federal government, especially the presidential election. So on average, around 86% of people turn out to vote for a presidential election. And that makes sense. Federal leadership is important. The federal government provides funds and sets national policies. But what we don't take, what we don't talk about nearly as much as what happens next. Those funds don't just manage themselves, right? They are distributed, allocated, and spent at the state level. So how that money is used, what programs are funded, how priorities are set, and who benefits is decided largely here, not at the federal level. And yet when it comes to state and local elections, especially in the odd numbered years, voter turnout drops below 40%. That's a huge, huge gap, and that really, really matters. This is why we see so many offices actually going unopposed, or people in office for 20 and 30, 40 years doing the same jobs with no accountability. It shows us that while people are deeply invested in national politics, that we're far less engaged at the level of government that directly shapes our day-to-day lives. And that disconnect weakens self-government where it actually matters. What we see today instead is widespread disengagement. We complain and we argue, and then we point our fingers. but we don't participate in a way that self-governing society requires. And one of the reasons for that is simple. It's because we have been taught to see governing as a profession instead of a civic duty. We elect people, trust that they're going to do what they promise, and then we stop paying attention. So instead of continuing to ask the questions of our representatives, we focus on what the other side is doing wrong. Very few people want to admit when the candidate that they supported aren't holding up their end of the bargain, right? Nobody wants to say, oh, I voted for that guy and he's screwing up. But, accountability gets replaced with loyalty, and that's how self-government erodes. Political tribalism doesn't serve the people, it only protects power. Part of the reason that this happens is because political parties have become personal identities, right? When a party becomes part of who we are, questioning its leaders feels like we're questioning ourselves. And that mindset has cost us the ability to see issues from different perspectives. You can see this clearly in popular slogans that have taken hold over recent election cycles. Phrases like, I'm sure we've all heard, blue no matter who, right? The message is simple. It does not matter who the candidate is as long as it's not the other guy, right? That slogan only tells us, that actually tells us something really important. It signals a refusal to acknowledge a problem, a willingness to accept anyone as long as it's not the other guy. And when we think this way, we stop asking whether someone is actually right, the right person for the job. We lose the ability to even acknowledge that the person we supported might not be serving us well. And this isn't unique to one party, okay? This is across the board. It exists on both sides of the aisle, and the difference is often just in how it's labeled. If you question your own side, you're dismissed, you're attacked, you're labeled a traitor, and that pressure keeps people silent even when they know something isn't right. And I think sometimes we're not even sure how to put our finger on exactly what's wrong because we have that loyalty and we feel like we should just trust what's happening. This is how blind loyalty replaces accountability, and blind loyalty serves power. It does not serve the people. If you cannot ask questions of our leaders, then, what hope do we have to hold them accountable? What we need to replace it with isn't another ideology or another slogan. It's responsibility. It's critical thinking. It's the willingness to question, to verify, and to demand proof from those who claim to represent us. Loyalty to a party should never outweigh responsibility to the people. Criticizing our elected officials isn't disloyalty, it's essential. It's that scrutiny is what keeps representatives responsible to the people that they serve. They have to keep, we have to keep asking questions. We have to expect transparency, and we have to require those in office to show us, not just tell us, but we need the proof that they're doing the job that we entrusted them with. Today's political environment shows what happens when we don't demand that. Our rights are eroding, power consolidates, the citizens feel disconnected, not because they've lost power, but because they're not, we've stopped exercising it. And here's the truth. In the United States, the people are sovereign. Sovereign simply means the highest authority. Government doesn't grant us rights. It derives its authority from us. But sovereignty comes with responsibility. Oh my, excuse me, just a second. My apologies. I have a little bug. Okay, and I'm not used to just talking nonstop without Michael here. So getting back to it, excuse me, you know, when citizens disengage, power doesn't disappear. It's taken out of their hands and it's used without meaningful accountability. And that leads to something that we almost never get to say out loud. And, if the only people that are willing to run for office are those that are seeking power, then power is what we're going to get. Running for office was never meant to be a career path. It was never meant to make millionaires. It was meant to be a service. Ordinary citizens were expected to step forward when needed, serve for their time, and then return to their lives. Not everyone needs to run for office, but we all need to remember that governing doesn't belong to them, it belongs to us. So this is how we the people wants to put it into action. We the people isn't about, we're not interested in replacing one politician with another. It's about restoring the roles of the citizens. I am so sorry. We don't believe that the current system can be fixed. Honestly, we can't manage it from the inside because the system itself is corrupt. We believe that it's broken and that the power needs to be shifted back to the people. That's why we're focused on building citizen committees right now. We know that there are already people out there doing this work. They're out there asking these questions and they are digging into these budgets and they're attending meetings, demanding transparency. And we want to be able to partner with you. People want answers and no single group has the answer to everything. The only way forward is for us to work together to find them. You don't need to be an expert. I am not an expert in any of this. I'm learning as we go, and it's been amazing. And we don't even need to agree on everything. You just need to be willing to stay engaged and ask questions. Right now the goal is understanding how the government works, how decisions are made, where the money comes from, and where it goes. Right? That's going to be the most important thing right now that we need to really learn. And once we truly understand the problems, then we can fix them. But we can't fix what we don't understand. So, and that's why citizen responsibility comes first. And that's what we the people is about. If you've ever felt frustrated, disconnected, or shut out of the process, this is your invitation to step back in. Let's not be spectators anymore. Let's not just complain online. I know that sharing information is important and it's how we get the word out about things. And that is very important. I'm not saying that it's not. But if we really want true change, then we need to be going to these meetings and we need to be understanding how our government truly works so that we can figure out what's wrong and fix it so that it works for everyone. There isn't anyone that I can imagine that doesn't agree that homelessness is an issue, period, right? That is a problem. That is bipartisan. We can all agree, that taxes, especially here in Washington State, are terrible. I can't imagine that anybody doesn't agree with that sentiment. Now, where that money goes and how that money is spent, I don't think, we can talk all day about it, but until we really get down to understanding how it all works and where it is actually going, and finding where we can cut things, I think that if what will happen is we're going to discover where a lot of this corruption is happening and where a lot of our money is being lost and how it's, we're paying something about a company in Texas to build something here in a bridge in Washington State. I mean, that's ridiculous to me. Why aren't we supporting local companies? Keeping the money here in Washington. Anyway, there's a lot of things that we need to look into to understand more. And if you're interested in getting involved and wanting to do this, this isn't based on your party, right? This is just, let's just learn and understand and get together and do that. Let me grab the link to join our mailing list. If you'd like to stay up to date with what's going on, I will be up in Olympia on the 15th. There's going to be a day of engagement up there. And I'm going to be going and talking to my legislators in the area, in my district too, and learning what they've been doing and asking them questions about how do they feel about the freedom in our state, and what are they doing to help to do good by our citizens. My brain's a little foggy because I'm not feeling great, so words are hard. Anyway, I think I am gonna let it go there. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to us. If you have any input, I got an email today from somebody who brought to our attention that there are a couple of bills going there's one at the House and one at the Senate right now about the sheriffs, how they're wanting to make it so that sheriffs are appointed and not elected. That is to me a terrible idea, because the sheriffs are the ones who enforce or don't enforce the unlawful mandates that might be unconstitutional that our government might put in place. We can see that as a possibility with what they're trying to accomplish with the West Coast Health Alliance. Another one is that in the Senate, and we're going to talk about these either tomorrow or Monday, but in the Senate, there's one where the AG can, if the sheriffs are not doing their job to uphold state law over the Constitution, essentially, that they can be prosecuted, that their departments can be prosecuted. And so this just, for me, leads into a whole terrible road that we're headed down, where we are losing more control over our lives with those laws. And so we want to dig into those and understand them more. And we'd love to have on, sheriffs or anybody related to that field who may, know something about this and want to discuss this. There's also, we're also going to be talking about the new guidelines that were put out by HHS for, eating clean, right? And so getting rid of all the processed foods. And I'm sorry, again, I can't think of the words, but amazing. I'm so excited about that. And so we're going to dig into that a little bit as well. So I'm going to call it quits for now, but I hope that everybody has a good night, and thank you. And we will see you tomorrow.